Hi everyone, welcome to another Yuga Auto review. Today we're going to be looking at one of the well-loved crossovers in the Philippine market. It got a brand new release this year for 2022, and we're going to go ahead and look at what it's bringing to the table this time around. This is the 2022 Honda HR-VS CVT Honda Sensing. What we have here today is the 2022 HR-VS variant. This is the entry level between two. There's the S and the V. This is the naturally aspirated HR-V. As far as the looks go, it is going to be different from the V. However, that does not mean to say that Honda decided to shortchange people, because look at it. It still looks pretty darn good to me. There are LED DRLs, there are LED headlights, and there are LED fog lights as well. But possibly the biggest difference between this and the V is seen right here in the middle. The V, compared to the V, which has more of a diamond pattern, more of a honeycomb form or shape to the grille, design to the grille, the S right here decided to go a simpler route. They picked out glossy black and they designed this horizontally slatted grille. When we saw pictures before its release, we thought that it might not work. It might look a bit too simple, but now that it's here, we can say that yes, Honda did a good job. It looks really, really clean and really, really good. Simple, and yeah, it's elegant. Now, moving over to the side, there's really not much going on with the HR-V, to be honest. Whether it's this generation or even in the past generation, Honda decided to keep it very clean and very neat with the HR-V. It just stands out that little bit more with the white color, but there's a lot of, well, not a lot, but the black contrasting pieces on the HR-V that always serve to help make it look a bit bigger, a bit wider than it really is. I'll mention something about the general size of the HR-V later on, but yeah, you'll see black cladding here on the fenders, both front and rear. Well, you still have the door sills, no chrome here. It's still all black. You have black accent pieces on the side mirror stock as well. There's the door trim piece, which is also black. Yeah, again, makes it look wider, makes it look bigger. Overall, the greenhouse, it looks a bit smaller compared to the previous generation. Something that Honda did decide to retain, though, is, well, the funky door handles for the rear doors. Back when they first came out with it, a lot of people were confused. They didn't know where or how to open the rear doors. But yeah, 2022, guys, girls, it's still there. Going back to comparing the V and the S, now, the wheels will be different between the two models. The S, this one will have two-tone wheels compared to a full gunmetal finish on that of the V. Both are 17-inch rims, but personally, I like this a bit more. There's something about contrasting wheel colors that adds a little bit more class and style to any car. So as we move to the rear of the HR-V, we see that the black accent pieces continue. You can see the black accent piece here right below the roof spoiler, and you can see the black rear bumper accent piece that houses two reflectors run along its entire width. There's not much really going on with the rear of the HR-V. However, the team is unanimous in saying that this whole assembly, from the taillights to the tailgate strip, that is one feature of the 2022 HR-V that all of us really like. It adds a lot of class and a lot of sportiness to the HR-V, despite it being a pretty small crossover. Now, one little detail that people might not notice really is the fact that despite the tail lamp units being clear plastic, if you look at it from a distance, you'd see that it actually looks more of like black chrome, something that, yeah, sure, kind of reminiscent with the Type R headlights, but really, the plastic itself really is clear plastic, but the black chrome look is because of the diffuser and the reflector pieces that they used inside of the assemblies. Again, very small detail, but hey, if it's a callback to something that makes Honda look just that little bit better than everyone else, they hit the nail with this one. Right now, we're sitting in the front row of the HRV. As we said, the 2022 model is an all-new model for this particular badge. That said, a lot of changes went into the cabin and into the front row. The dashboard, it got a totally new redesign. It still juts out a little bit towards the driver, but it does not look as bulky as before. The AC vents, they're a lot smaller, but contrary to popular belief, no, just because maliit yung mga aircon vents, hindi ibig sabihin mahina ang aircon. Okay? So that's a very common Pinoy misconception, but yeah, the air conditioning works just fine. Air conditioning being mentioned, we have a new climate control system right here. In the previous generation, everything was haptic or touch controlled. For the 2022 model, Honda opted to bring back these actual dials. So it's a lot more intuitive, to be honest. You know when you adjust, say, the fan speed, you could see it, you could feel it, you could hear it click. Airflow, it's still the same, also has a dial. Same thing with the thermostat. Moving down to the center stack, one nice thing about this particular design, albeit new, is the fact that you have two pockets. The top pocket, I think it's pretty convenient given that the charging ports, the USB charging ports, are right here on the top level. So if you have, say, an Android phone or an iPhone, the head unit has both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They're not wireless, so if you're gonna have to connect your phone via USB cable, you just plop it down here, and that's pretty convenient. You have another pocket here, knickknacks, cards, what have you, anything that you need stowing right in front of you. So that's also, it's a pretty deep recess as well, so you don't have to worry about your things flying every which way if you have to move the car at speed or if you have to brake all of a sudden. You have two cup holders here. They're a bit on the smaller side. They're gonna fit fast food cups, no problem, but don't expect to be able to put a pretty big tumbler here in these two cup holders up front. Let's go back to the AC vents. One thing that is new with this generation of Honda vehicles, not just the HRV, is this dial. Previously, we would be able to just kill the airflow or just turn it on. Yes, you can still do that, but the nifty thing about this new system is, you know how, say, you have your fans at high speed, right? And for example, nakatutok sa mukha mo. And then you have to open a window to get a parking ticket, or you have to go down from the car, and then it's hot outside compared to how cold it is inside the car. Magpa-fog up yung salamin mo because yun nga, nakatutok siya. But if you move the dial, you'll see the edge right here of the dash. Instead of the air coming out of the vent itself, it's this little vent here. That's where the air comes out. I heard one of my friends mention that the air comes out a little bit lighter. So, kumbaga man in the vernacular, kahit nakatutok siya, hindi siya parang yung nananapak sa mukha yung hangin. Honda meant for this to circulate the air, if you will. Yeah, sure, a normal air conditioning vent can do that also, but if you want softer air to hit your direction, then just turn this knob up. That's gonna do the job for you. Another difference is the gauge. In the HRV-S, you still get analog gauges and a smaller multi-information display in between the tach and the speedometer. Compared to the V, the tach and the MID are incorporated in a 7-inch digital display. Does it make that much of a difference? No, not really. Personally, I still like the analog gauges, so this one works perfectly fine for me. Steering wheel is urethane. It compared to the V, which is leather covered and leather stitched. You have your normal slew of controls here on the left. You have your audio controls, you have the menu controls for your multi-information display, and your connectivity controls as well on the left. On the right, you have your adaptive cruise control button. You have the distance adjustment for your adaptive cruise control, and you have your lane keep assist button right here as well. The reset button and the set button of the adaptive cruise control are here on the right side as well. Overall, the the front seats of the HRV, or the space in front, I think it's a little bit smaller than the previous generation, but only just. Only just. It's not a significant change or reduction in space, but in as much as the previous generation felt really, really wide and, well, really long, the new generation HRV, this 2022 model HRV, feels just a little bit more cramped, but hey, it still works. The HRV as a whole is, it's a solid car. It's a solid platform, so you don't really have to worry about, getting backaches or cramping up your knees or your legs, because the space is still ample. The space is still there. Maluwag pa din siya. So, well, the seats are comfortable too. The S comes with fabric upholstery, by the way. It does not come with leather compared to the V. But again, entry level, but it still looks good. One thing that we noticed, one thing that, well, again, it comes with the fact that it's an entry level model. There's a whole lot of plastic in the interior. There are no soft touch points here inside the cabin and on the dash, really. But I guess going with an all black motif, well, except for the red ring of the push start button, going with the all black motif, it still looks classy. It still looks, well, again, in Tagalog, hindi siya mukhang cheap. Mukha pa rin siyang mahal. And Honda is pretty good at that. I'm not saying that the Honda comes out with cheap looking stuff. No, it's not that. It's just that with the bare basic materials, the way they design things, the way everything comes together, the looks, the ergonomics, it's something very, very Honda. And it's something that Honda is, again, very good at. They do not shortchange you one single bit, despite the fact that you don't see leather or you don't have soft touch points here in front or there at the back. Another thing that we would nitpick on is, well, it's not exactly the head unit, okay? It's not exactly the infotainment system. Yes, we've come across infotainment screens that are just a little bit clearer, but this one is okay. There's just a little bit of grain on the screen, but you're not gonna use it to watch 4K movies, okay? So it serves a purpose and it's fine. Last observation that comes out of this infotainment screen is the camera. If you pop it into reverse, all right, there, however grainy it is when you're dealing with just the stereo, the camera, the image quality of the camera is, it can be improved on, really, but we don't think that's the fault of the infotainment screen, okay? We think that just might be the camera that Honda is using for when you go into reverse. So that is something that maybe can be a point for improvement in future models, or maybe a minor model change in the future. But again, overall, this is still as good, if not better, than the outgoing or the previous 2021 model HRV. On the topic of space, the Honda HRV has a lot going for it. It's based on the Honda City, which, if you will remember, has this nifty feature called ULTR. That stands for utility, long, tall, and I believe the last one is relax. Now, well, not unfortunately, but the HRV does not have the R part, but it still does have the first three, the ULT. So for utility mode, you can fold the backrests in the second row. That gives you a lot more versatile space for things that you need to put in the trunk, but don't exactly have enough space for. The next configuration is L, the long, not the long utility, but rather the long configuration, if you will. That basically comes by you tumbling this forward, and you can recline the front passenger's seat back fully. You push it forward and then you recline the backrest so you'll have more space for your longer cargo. The last one is tall, which is, I'll show it to you right now. If you are, say, a plantito, which is, I think, a perfect example. If you have a potted plant that you need to put in your car, voila, taller space. Okay, so we're driving along NLEX. We're taking the 2022 Honda HR-VS for a spin. We mentioned earlier that there are only two variants. There is the naturally aspirated one, which is this one, and we also have the turbo variant. In the city, a lot of people are asking, it's a 1.5 liter engine. A lot of people would ask, baka bitin, baka underpowered. In the city, it's okay, actually. What we noticed was it's a bit sluggish off the line. Well, you can't really expect much. It puts out, 121 PS. And it's all the way up until, 4,000, 4,200. So you don't expect something that's going to be very quick off the line. Don't expect something that's going to be really fast. But as a car that you would use in the city, it's fine. So what are we doing on the highway? If there's one thing that Honda has been, how should we put this, really ramping up, so to speak, it's with their safety tech. The good thing about the 2022 HR-V is that both variants come with Honda sensing. This particular variant, it has lane departure warning, lane keep assist, it has collision mitigation, and it has adaptive cruise control. We think that it's best to test these features on the highway. Right now, the adaptive cruise control is on. I've set the speed to anywhere between 80 and 90 Ks. If you would look here, you could set how far or how close you would want to be to the vehicle in front of you. And what the adaptive cruise control does is, depending on the gap that you set, it either applies the brakes if you're too close, or if it senses Honda sensing, if it senses that the car in front of you is moving forward, then it applies the accelerator to catch up. So yes, we always say that cars are getting smarter and smarter. Totoo yan. Matalino na talaga ang mga sasakyan ngayon. We didn't have this back in the 80s and the 90s. So a Mazda just cut in front of us, and that Mazda right there just cut in front of us. And if you might have noticed, I kind of lurched forward just a little bit. That was Honda Sensing's adaptive cruise control in control. Just stepped on the brakes so we won't crash into it. Safety is something that, safety features are some things that we can never have enough of, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you decided to slap it onto this variant. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the suspension of the 2022 HR-V. I was fortunate enough to drive still the same two variants of the previous generation. And here we are with the newest one, the latest one. Now, what I can say coming from the previous one to the new one is Honda got it right. Honda definitely got it right with this one. The suspension is still that dare I say it, the perfect balance between hard and soft. Um, you won't you won't rattle your teeth out. It's one thing for sure. But if you're driving alone, or even if you have passengers, it's not a wallowy ride at all. We sing high praises of suspensions of other cars from other manufacturers. We would find things to nitpick about with every brand, but particularly for this one, for the HRV, the 2022 HRV, there's there's nothing you could fault it for, really. One impressive thing about the suspension of the HRV is with most vehicles, if you whether you're riding alone or if you load it with people or cargo, the ride quality changes. For most vehicles out there, if it's loaded, tumatagtag. Or if you usually, drive alone, masyado namang maalon. But that's not the case with the HRV. Like I said earlier, Honda managed to strike a very good balance with tuning the whole suspension setup of the HRV. So don't expect too much to change whether you're driving alone or you're driving with some company. Something that you would notice with the HRV is, despite it running on electronic power steering, is, yeah, you can't, hindi mo ma-expect na the feedback on the wheel is there. It still feels kind of dull. But what's impressive is the fact that the response of the car when you turn the wheel did not seem to suffer at all when they built this. We're not going to do it here for obvious reasons, because it's a highway, it's an open road. But if you make your way to a dealership, and if they have maybe a test unit, and they have a controlled space where you can do it, if you pull on the wheel, if you turn the wheel, all of a sudden, if you imagine yourself having to avoid an accident, turn the wheel left, turn the wheel right, hindi siya parang, I'm not so sure if it applies, pero hindi siya parang normal na EPS na there's something that feels like lag. No, the HRV doesn't have that. If you really need to shift lanes or just get out of the way really quick, the HRV can do that. So what do we think about the 2022 HRV? As we said before, it has a lot of good things going for it. There are some questions from people whether, well, the biggest question really is with regard to the engine, if it's going to be underpowered or not. It is a crossover. It is now powered by a 1.5 liter engine compared to the 1.8 from the previous generation. Yes, it only comes with about 121 PS of power, around 145 Newton meters of torque. Is it underpowered? Not necessarily so. For a city car, the HRV is going to be a very good choice for anyone who wants a crossover over a sedan. Again, as we mentioned, the space is there, even if on the outside it looks a little bit smaller. Maybe it is, but the space is there. The comfort is there. Most importantly, Honda fit their safety suite into this entry-level variant. The Honda Sensing safety suite is here in the HRV-S. So now we get to another very important point, another important question, which is the price. The HRV-S is priced at 1,250,000 pesos compared to the HRV V Turbo. That is a 348,000 peso price difference. Pretty big, pretty hefty if you ask me. But if you are looking for a crossover that looks good, it has a nice looking interior, classy if you will. If you want a crossover that has enough ground clearance, if you're looking for a crossover that has more than enough space and more versatility, whether it's for people or for your cargo, the HRV-S will definitely fit the bill. Is it a good choice? We definitely think so. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also like and subscribe to our social networks on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and even on TikTok. This has been Miko of Yuga Auto. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time.